After Billy bailed on our wedding, I moved abroad. 5 years later, Billy's dad passed away, and I returned to pay my respects. At the airport, I ran into Billy, holding my child. "Is this our daughter?" His eyes welled up. He reached out to hold us. I shook my head and stepped back. "You're joking, Mr. Billy. We couldn't possibly have a child. We were each other's first love. Our families were close friends, matched in status and education. So naturally, soon after college, our marriage was arranged. On the wedding day, vows were read, and Billy suddenly said to me, 'I'm sorry, I don't love you.' He was holding the mic, so everyone heard it. The wedding obviously didn't go on. Billy left, leaving me humiliated. Our families had a huge falling out, and my parents and I moved abroad. If it weren't for the news of Billy's dad's passing, from my parents, I wouldn't have come back. After all, they were longtime friends, so my folks asked me to come back and pay respects. I didn't expect Billy to be the one picking me up at the airport. After 5 years, Billy looked as handsome as ever, more mature. In the past, just seeing him made my heart race. But now, nothing in my heart stirred. "Long time no see, Mr. Billy." I was holding my daughter, Molly, coaxing her to greet him. "Be good, Molly, say hi to Uncle Billy." She just woke up, sleepily greeted, "Hi Uncle Billy," and then fell back asleep on my shoulder. Billy, suddenly emotional, almost stumbled towards us. "Is this our daughter?" He quivered, unsure if he wanted to hold me or Molly. I quickly stepped back, putting space between us. "You're joking, Mr. Billy. We couldn't possibly have a child." "Susan, this was the child back then, wasn't it?" Billy seemed to ignore my words, rambling nonsense. I handed Molly to Mary, her nanny. Mary's been with Molly the whole time, a huge help. I also brought my assistant Leo, to handle studio work. "Mr. Billy, I'm here on behalf of my parents, to pay respects to Uncle Goo. We never married, so where's the kid coming from?" "I'm married. Please stop with the strange talk." Even after 5 years, Billy bailing left a mark. I can't sugarcoat my tone with him. But Billy couldn't accept it, confusedly asking, "What's with Mr. Billy? You used to call me brother." "I was young back then, I made a mistake." "Susan, these 5 years must have been hard, raising the child alone." "I won't fail you again." In the car, Billy talked a bunch. "I think he's got something wrong upstairs." So I got out, crammed into a car with Mary and Leo, and pulled open the car door again, saying, "Billy, I'm married. And you're married too, mind your words, don't get me tangled in drama." Just about to shut the door, Billy suddenly grabbed my hand. "Susan, you still care about Shirley and me. I can divorce her. Sometimes you laugh at the absurdity." I slammed the car door, leaving. He was supposed to marry me, yet he devoted his life to Shirley. Now he's not satisfied, having tied the knot with his love. What a jerk. Our family home and Billy's family's villa are close in the suburbs. Since our villa hasn't been occupied or maintained for years, it's uninhabitable. That's why we stayed at Billy's family villa. Originally, I wanted a hotel in the city, but with the cemetery visit the next day, it was inconvenient. So one night wouldn't hurt. Billy's mom saw me, reminiscing non-stop, ending with, expressing how Billy wronged me. "Susan, would you still be willing to be part of Billy's family? Be Billy's daughter-in-law?" "Couldn't care less." I interrupted, "I forgot to introduce you to my daughter." "Daughter?" By then, Mary had brought Molly out. Molly sweetly called her Billy's grandma, delighted. Catherine held her, examining. "She resembles you at her age," she mused, "just as adorable." Catherine said. Molly tilted her head, "I like Catherine too." Smooching Catherine's cheek. This little girl, just like her dad, knows how to charm. Making Catherine beam with joy. Billy was standing nearby, for who knows how long, suddenly adding. She looks like Susan, pretty. I hope her mind's like mine, smart. He reached to caress Molly's bow-tied pigtail. Molly dodged, glaring at him, clearly displeased. Why like you? My dad's the smartest, the best. I wasn't thrilled about Billy around Molly, motioning for Mary to take her away. Catherine noticed the tension and redirected. I heard Susan got married, a shame we couldn't attend. The groom's from where? Why not introduce him this time? Over these 5 years, our families weren't in touch, so naturally, my marriage wasn't announced. During my wedding, only our parents were invited. Mom. Billy complained, how could Susan marry, Molly's mine? Turning to me, Susan, I was wrong, but the kid needs a dad too. I didn't know why Billy was obsessing, nor did I care to find out. I smiled at Catherine, it's been a long day, I'll rest now. I clarified multiple times, I'm married, Molly isn't Billy's. He still didn't believe. Catherine stopped Billy, as he attempted to follow. Behind me, their argument began. Enough, haven't you troubled Susan enough? She's married, don't cause more chaos. In my room, I switched my phone off airplane mode. Hundreds of messages and calls popped up. Babe, let's take Molly to our alma mater. Babe, why aren't you responding? Babe, you upset with me? I immediately dialed back, hearing Mark's reproachful whine. Now you remember me? No love. I laughed, just chatting with Billy's family, lost track. Mark sounded anxious. You didn't talk to him, right? That guy, meaning Billy. I mentally rolled my eyes, wanting to vent about Billy's craziness to Mark. Nothing much to talk about with him. So, when can you come back? Mark mused, after tomorrow's shareholder meeting, I'll be flying over. We chatted on the phone for a bit. Our suite has a bedroom for Molly and me, and Mary's in the next room. Leo's in a downstairs guest room. Mary was reading a bedtime story to Molly. I instructed her to keep Molly close these days, not letting anyone get near. Especially Billy, let's keep Molly away from him. Had I known Billy was acting like a crazy person, I wouldn't have brought Molly back. 5 years ago, when Billy ran out on me, he kept saying he had someone else in his heart. The wedding dress was huge and heavy, and I clumsily chased after Billy's determined back. Finally, I caught his sleeve. All those eyes were on me, mocking and sympathetic looks piercing me like knives. Tears ruined my makeup, and through blurred eyes, I begged him to stay. At least don't let me and my parents lose face in front of everyone. Billy shook me off in disgust. He said, don't do this, clinging only makes me dislike you even more. I'm going to pursue my happiness. So, I let Billy go and let him leave. Funny how life is. I never thought that after I returned home, Billy would cling to me like a madman. What bad luck. Then my phone suddenly rings again. An unfamiliar number. I picked up. It's Billy. Mom gave me your number, let's talk. There's nothing to talk about. I gave his mom a temporary number I use in the country, so it doesn't matter if Billy has it. As soon as I hung up, a text came through. These 5 years you were gone, I kept thinking about you. After reading your diary, I realized my biggest mistake was not being with you. I thought for a moment and then blocked the number. So annoying. The next morning, our group headed to the cemetery. Molly, after all, was still small, so I left my assistant and Mary at the villa to look after her. Among those who came to the cemetery were my parents' old acquaintances, and I spent some time greeting them. They were curious about who I married abroad and if I had a baby. In the middle of the conversation, a woman's voice rudely interrupted. I heard from Billy that the kid is his. Shirley took off her sunglasses and gave me a sly smile. Long time no see. Did you come back to win Billy's heart with the kid? Actually, it's not that complicated. If you want him, I'll give him to you. There it was again, that overwhelming feeling of shame from being watched by everyone. If this were before, I'd probably be red with anger from Shirley's words. Now, I just smiled and said, "That's quite generous of you. I'm not like you, collecting trash." Shirley's expression stiffened but quickly recovered. "I heard you're staying at Billy's place. Are you planning on having the kid recognized by the family? Some people just push too far. Denying it would only be suspicious." So, I simply ignored Shirley and politely said to the others, "My husband will probably land tonight. Maybe we can all get together tomorrow." Naturally, the old friends agreed. At that moment, the ceremony began, and everyone scattered. Shirley was relentless, nagging behind me, "Are you really married? Does your husband know about your past? Does he know how you chased after another man?" Billy's university was next to mine. During college, our parents had already arranged our marriage. Shirley was Billy's classmate from the same major. The first time I heard Shirley's name was when Billy compared us. That day, he forgot my birthday, so I pretended to be upset and called him out for a meal. Billy suddenly got mad and said I always bothered him over little things. Today I promised Shirley we'd work on a social practice project together, and you dragged me out just for dinner? Can't you be more mature? In Billy's eyes, Shirley was a cool girl. She was smart, ambitious, and hardworking. I felt pretty wronged and gave him a playful punch. "Who's your girlfriend here?" Billy apologized at the time, explaining that the project was important, so he got mad at me. Growing up, I was always chasing after Billy. To me, he was a brother, a friend, and a lover. So, I was pretty happy he could smooth things over with me and didn't press him about Shirley. It wasn't until the end of the sophomore year that I noticed Shirley. Billy said he was busy prepping for exams and would connect after break. I missed him too much and sneakily went to see him at his school. He wasn't in his dorm, nor the library. I saw him on the field, walking with a girl I didn't know. Out of nowhere, Shirley's name popped into my head. The evening light painted the sky red. I caught up and asked, "Is this what you call studying?" Billy panicked a bit and instinctively shielded Shirley behind him. "What are you imagining now?" Billy frowned. Was it wrong to discuss things with a classmate? "Susan, you suffocate me." Suffocate. Billy used that word to describe his parents. The Lee family elders were strict with Billy. All his life, his parents arranged everything, from daily routines to social interactions. Maybe because of the tight leash at home, Billy grew distant and indifferent toward others. He had few friends and could only confide in me when troubled. Confide, actually, was him showing vulnerability once in a blue moon. But still, it made me think I held a special place in his heart. He once said he felt most at ease and happy with me. I acted cool, but inside, I was thrilled. This mutual secret crush, I thought he liked me too. But in the end, Billy said I suffocated him. Suddenly, I panicked. Clearly, Billy was in the wrong, yet I was the one panicking. I was scared I actually suffocated him, as I had high hopes for our future together. Yet, I had my dignity. Billy dared to defend another girl by hurting me, so there wasn't much left of this relationship. I broke up with him then. The laughable part was, that night he showed up with roses asking to reconcile. He sincerely explained he was only discussing professional matters with the classmate. After that, Shirley seemed to vanish from Billy's life. I never heard him mention her again. Until the wedding 5 years ago. Billy said, "I'm going to pursue my happiness. Shirley is my happiness." That's when I knew Billy was warming Shirley while dating me. To a degree, Billy was quite the master of deception. He carried on for so long, only to destroy everything at my happiest moment. I asked him why he chose the wedding day. Billy said, "Shirley has no sense of security. Only if we're absolutely not possible could she feel at ease." And all I got was this pathetic reason, left to face endless gossip and rumors. The memory stops there. Nearby, Shirley's constant noise finally silenced under Billy's slap. "What are you doing? You suffocate me." Shirley instinctively tried to fight back but was held by Billy. "Apologize to Susan," he said. People turned to check the commotion. I quickly distanced myself from the drama. They were bickering, clearly unhappy with each other. Looks like Billy's age hasn't cured his suffocation issues. Thinking this, I almost laughed during the moment of silence. At a burial for an elder, it's never a good look when the younger ones are bickering. Catherine, with a stern face, told them to zip it. I found myself a bit curious about how Billy and Shirley ended up like this. But I had no intention of snooping. Once the funeral wrapped up, everyone gradually left the cemetery. "Susan, how about staying at the house with Aunt for a few days?" Watching her husband's ashes being laid to rest, even the strong-willed Catherine couldn't help but choke up. I comforted her a bit, recalling how she once treated me like her own daughter. My heart softened. "How about I take Aunt abroad for a change of scenery?" I suggested. "My parents got a small farm in America, it's quite beautiful." Catherine furrowed her brows, and my words just made her more upset. "It would have been better if Bill had married you. Now they're splitting up and dividing assets, and the family business can't function without me. Who'd have thought that after being so successful, I'd find no peace in my twilight years?" I kept my sighs to myself and just listened to Catherine vent. In the back of my mind, I thought about how maybe if she hadn't interfered with Billy and Shirley or kept me in the dark, things might have turned out differently. After Billy bailed on our wedding, my parents demanded an explanation. It was only then that Catherine confessed. When Billy and I broke up, she went to Shirley with $500,000 to keep her away from Billy. Initially, Shirley refused, claiming everyone has the right to choose love. But Catherine cut off Billy's funds, warning that if he married anyone but me, he wouldn't see a penny of inheritance. As it happened, Catherine got pregnant at an older age then. Who knows what Billy was thinking? From my side, he showed up the next day apologizing and begging to reconcile. I was clueless about all the scheming, just believing naively that Billy truly cared about me. I saw it as a sincere first love connection, but to Billy, I was just a family-imposed hassle. He couldn't resent his parents, so he secretly harbored resentment towards me. The rest of it makes sense once you know that. Billy and Shirley officially went their separate ways but remained secretly attached. With the help of my family's resources and his own strong background, Billy swiftly started up his business. He became a rising star in the business world, baring his teeth when they couldn't control him anymore. The first revenge came during the wedding I had eagerly awaited. He completely wrecked it. The second act was targeting the Chin family's business. With new technology and lower costs, Billy managed to snatch away most of our long-standing clients, leaving the Chin company in shambles. Billy didn't foresee, though, that my father was already thinking of going international, moving most of our operations abroad. Now, our overseas ventures are booming, while Billy believes we're on the brink of bankruptcy. At the time, Billy's parents felt deeply sorry and offered us $1 million in compensation. But my father refused and simply moved our family abroad. The third act of revenge was Billy marrying Shirley with much fanfare, a slap in the face to the elders. To show his love for Shirley, he listed most of the company's shares under her name. If this were a novel starring Billy and Shirley, by now it'd read like a perfect happy ending. But life doesn't offer perfect happy endings. And a heartless traitor like Billy doesn't deserve bliss. Now, Shirley and Billy are on the verge of divorce. Technically, most of the assets belong to Shirley. That's surely what's keeping Catherine on edge. But honestly, other people's affairs aren't really my concern. I'm just here as a listener. After letting Catherine vent, I quietly added, "If you need, I can recommend an experienced divorce lawyer." As we talked, the car pulled up to the villa. Shirley was on the sofa, having the maid change her shoes. When she saw me accompanying a teary Catherine, she remarked sarcastically, "Mom, now that your favorite daughter-in-law is back, I'm fine stepping down. Won't ask for much, just hand over that lakeside villa. Otherwise, don't blame me if Star River Group buys us out." Catherine ignored her, and I did the same, heading upstairs to find Molly. Molly wasn't in her room, though it was full of toys and clothes. Opening the window, I saw Mary in the garden with Molly on a swing, with a nanny nearby. Billy was kneeling in front of Molly with a large stuffed rabbit. But Molly turned away and ignored him. She's probably still upset about Billy's comment that she takes after him with her smarts. To a child, parents are paramount, everyone else is secondary. I headed down and caught Billy trying to appease Molly. "This was your mom's favorite bunny toy back in the day, do you want it?" That took me back. For my birthdays, Billy would always gift me rabbit toys or rabbit-shaped jewelry. Not because they were my favorite, they weren't, but because they were easy picks. As long as it was rabbit-themed, it was a go. Just like how he treated me, no need for effort to please, knowing I'd care deeply for him regardless. Billy never feared I'd stop loving him. No. Molly refused with a stern face. "Dad made Mom lots of these, this bunny's ugly." Seeing me then, Molly jumped off the swing, all excited. "Mom, you're finally back." She held out her arms, wanting a hug. I bent down to pull her into a warm embrace. "Mom, can we leave?" she asked. "I miss Dad." Poor thing, she's been missing the animals at the farm and the fun at home. "Yeah, let's pack up and go," I reassured her. "Your dad should be landing soon." Hearing this, Molly clapped her hands and urged Mary to help her pack. "How long do you plan on keeping it from her?" Billy tried to stop me. "She's 5 now, do the math, it's from that night." Luckily, I quickly covered Molly's ears. The little girl squinted up at me with confusion. I smiled at her and told Mary to help her pack up. Once they were out of sight, I chuckled at Billy. "That night?" I asked. "You mean when you begged me to apologize to Shirley, blaming me for your broken engagement?" Billy's face turned white, dropping the act. After Billy abandoned our marriage, the backlash came hard on our family. The abrupt breakup took a toll on me. Hearing my parents mention evidence of retaliation, I went to plead with Billy to take it easy on us. Instead, I found him with Shirley, looking down at me with disdain. Pretending kindness, then showing his true, harsh nature. "If it weren't for you, Shirley wouldn't have been hurt," he said, blaming me. "If you want mercy for the Chin family, await Shirley's forgiveness." I never drank but found myself downing who knows how much that night. I ended up begging Billy, pleading over old affections to spare us. The next morning, I woke up in bed beside Billy, with Shirley in tears, Billy believing I had schemed seduction and marking our family a target. These memories flooded back as Billy's color drained. Words failed him, and all I could do was laugh. "Oh, come on Billy, nothing happened with 2 drunk people, plus, Shirley tossed you on my bed." Seeing the disbelief all over the guy's face, I added another line. "If I ended up pregnant with your kid, I'd rather die than keep it." Only a fool would. Billy's body shook a bit. As I was about to leave, he grabbed my wrist. "Don't go." "I don't mind the kid." Leo, my assistant, was faster, and knocked him out cold with a punch. Billy staggered back and landed hard on his butt. Mark was right, it's smart to have a bodyguard while out and about. Billy tried to approach me again, but Leo stepped in front of him. "Mr. Billy, please, respect yourself. Susan, if you dare leave, I'll send those old photos to your husband." "You'll never leave me." Photos of us passed out together after a night of too much booze. Billy used to think I'd set them up and would curse me for being shameless. Now, he's trying to mess with Mark and me using them. I stopped in my tracks. Billy thought he'd won. "One day, I'll find out who your current guy is. No man can stand his wife getting cozy with another." Suddenly, someone from behind grabbed my hand. My back touched a warm, strong chest. Mark's voice filled my ear. "Billy, at least you know yourself pretty well." "What do you mean?" Billy frowned. "Who are you?" "Never mind that, check out these photos." Mark waved his hand, and photos flew in the wind, smacking against Billy's face. Hesitating, he picked one up, and veins bulged on his neck. Shirley, that traitor. Then he rushed inside the villa, forgetting about me. As I said goodbye to Catherine, Shirley's scream echoed from upstairs. Catherine glanced at Mark, then at me. He's a good guy, Mark, right? Treat our Susan well. Her eyes were red, and her final words were a sigh. I hugged her, inviting her to visit the farm when she had time. Just as the car window shut, Shirley's screams reached us. Aunt Catherine hurried off in panic, not even saying goodbye. Through the iron fence of the yard, I could clearly see Billy and Shirley squaring off on the third-floor balcony. How amusing. Two people who once loved each other, now one is hiding marital assets, the other cheating like it's no big deal. No wonder they found each other. Let's go, honey. Yeah. I slipped into the car and left it all behind. Visiting my high school was already part of the plan for this trip home. Mark carried Molly, pointing at his picture on the honor wall. Boasting, your dad was an outstanding graduate, isn't that cool? The little girl stared at him for a long time. That's not you, Daddy. Why not? I chuckled and asked. Ugly. Mark was so frustrated he leaned back, pretending to be angry at Molly, but in the end, he just gave her a gentle pinch on the cheek. Don't call Daddy ugly. Molly wrinkled her nose, but you are. Kids that age have a blurry concept of beauty and ugliness. Back then, though, Mark was nowhere near handsome. During puberty, he broke out with acne, and his family's trips to the doctor couldn't help. Mix that with hormonal chaos, making his already tall frame pudgy didn't look great. Because of this, some folks called him a toad behind his back. During high school, no one really knew about his background, but we all knew he was smart. Teachers liked him, but a bunch of students didn't. Some naughty boys gave him terrible nicknames and played pranks on him. One time, during gym class, they tied his shoelaces together, and he took a nasty spill. Being round, he couldn't untangle them himself. I helped untie Mark's laces and walked him to the nurse's office. I barely remember this, but Mark said that's when he started to notice me. But, back then, I was still trailing Billy like a shadow. Mark really tried to chat me up in high school, but I don't remember any of it. Even though we were in the same city for college, we weren't at the same university. In those 4 years, Mark changed a lot. Eventually, he felt confident enough to stand before me. He knew I liked photography, so he joined my university's photography club thanks to some connections. We shot pics together, had group dinners. We gradually became casual friends. But at that time, I could only see him as a friend. When it came to love, I would always choose Billy first. When Mark learned I was about to marry Billy, he let go and followed his family's plan to study abroad. Ironically, after Billy's betrayal, I ran into Mark in a different country. Despite the years with Billy, it was Mark who gave me the genuine feeling of love. Mark's pursuit was open and straightforward. I never rejected him. In a foreign place, apart from family, he was the one I trusted. But when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I hesitated. My many years with Billy weren't made up, we hadn't crossed every line, but we had kissed and hugged. I asked Mark if he minded. I didn't want to go through another heartbreak. Mark said this at the time. I got ready for years before I could come before you, and only with determination did I confess. I'll provide you the security you're lacking. The same day we made it official, he introduced me to his parents and elders. That's when it hit me that our families had been doing business together for ages. From being a couple to getting engaged, it all happened fast. No surprise when you're with Mark, I really felt that intangible happiness. Surprises would just happen without reminders. My decisions would get suggestions, not just an up to you. We accommodated each other, rather than me always giving in. He encouraged me to try new things, instead of just watching from the sidelines. Being with Mark revealed the difference between love and just liking someone. As I thought about this, Mark was showing Molly every detail around the campus. The finance teacher was there next to Leo, discussing our donation details. Mark had decided to donate a building to his old school, as a commemoration of our 4th anniversary. Moreover, he planned to set aside funds to support students in need. Surprisingly, we saw Billy there. With students around, we kept up our grown-up civilities. He came up and asked, "Are those photos my comeuppance? Are you thrilled now?" Shirley's affair, the cheating so flagrant, those photos were indisputable proof. But that punishment seems too light. After I spoke, Mark also approached. "Don't take it the wrong way, Mr. Billy. I gave you those photos hoping to discuss a business deal." "What deal?" "I'm interested in your company," Mark smiled. "Sell it to me." Billy squinted. "Shirley has the most shares. Talking to her seems like the best deal." Mark chuckled. "One of your wife's lovers is a director at my company. I want to team up with you, Mr. Billy, to deal with some trouble. What do you think?" While the two men chatted, I was busy helping Molly gather dandelions around us. Whenever she found one, she'd puff out her cheeks and blow it away. The white seeds fluttered everywhere, and when I looked up, my eyes met Billy's. He just looked at me like that. "You're still mad at me for taking over the Chin family's business?" I couldn't be bothered to respond as Molly dragged me further away to play. Mark stood in the way, making sure Billy couldn't get any closer. Today was destined to be lively. In the school's underground parking lot, Shirley was waiting. Of course, all her anger was aimed at Billy. "You dare freeze my assets." She hurled her leather bag at Billy, making his nose red and swollen. "Just you wait, the chairman of H Group, my lover, will make sure you pay for this." Mark quickly turned to me with a surrender gesture. "Honey, I don't know her." "Who are you?" Shirley tilted her chin, then sneered. "Oh, so you're the one who picked up the leftovers. That's why women are at a disadvantage in relationships. After a normal relationship ends, starting a new one gets you labeled as picking up the pieces. My solution, Leo, go." Leo went up and gave Shirley a couple of slaps. Billy just watched and didn't intervene. "We're not afraid Shirley might tell the chairman. There's no surveillance here. Besides, Billy won't testify for her." The 4 of us strolled away, leaving Billy and his wife to argue in place. Before returning to the country, I hosted a party, inviting old friends and those who had good ties with my parents. Part of the reason was to announce H Group's interest in investing domestically, but really, Mark wanted to publicly acknowledge we were married. Folks never let money slip away, no matter past grievances. What matters is whether we can collaborate for mutual benefit. Among the lady guests, talk inevitably drifted to marriage. With Mark as a comparison, they all felt that my separation from Billy years ago was the right choice. "Oh, Billy's wife never socializes with me. She pursues freedom and doesn't want to mingle with us who are ensnared by wealth." Chatting away, I learned that after Billy and Shirley got married, Shirley took no interest in either their home or the family business. She had little interest in social interactions, and even had some unpleasant encounters at a few gatherings. In her mind, these people either looked down on her or approached with ulterior motives. Billy initially stood by Shirley, thinking she was just not used to socializing. Later on, he got fed up and just stopped taking her to gatherings. As a result, Shirley started suspecting Billy had someone on the side. Their misunderstandings deepened, leading them to go their separate ways. I half listened, as if these were stories about strangers. Looking over at Mark, chatting and laughing not too far away, I suddenly smiled. Truly, it's all in the past. Billy was also invited to come. His family isn't as successful as they were 5 years ago. His arrival caused no stir, and I simply gave him a polite smile and continued greeting others. When I stepped out to the balcony for some fresh air, Billy followed closely. "This is your diary." The leather cover bore a clear logo from a certain brand. The pages were yellow. It had been years. I had it custom made to record every moment of my relationship with Billy. I flipped it open, every word and line filled with love. "You gave me this diary as a wedding gift." Billy was moved as he watched me flip the pages. When you left for abroad, I realized you loved me more than I ever imagined. Several times, I wished we had married back then. After skimming through, I closed the diary. And then what? Billy stood frozen. Susan, I can't believe you don't have any feelings for me. We have the chance to start over. I tossed the diary into the fireplace, speaking calmly. Whether you believe it or not doesn't concern me. But if you keep pestering me, I won't hesitate to let Leo give you a taste of his fists. No. Billy instinctively reached for the diary. But the flames consumed it in an instant, erasing the proof of my past affection for him. After returning to the country not long after, Mark successfully acquired Billy's company. On the day the contract was signed, Shirley finally learned that her lover was just a minor director at H Group. They both ended up in prison, one for embezzling H Group's assets, the other for attempting to short their own company. Shirley sent a request to meet with me from prison. Through the bars, she smirked. Susan, you think you're so smug. My present is your future. I shrugged casually. Oh, so what? Mark might love you now, but when he doesn't, he'll still throw you out. I totally agree. But so what? Before we got married, Mark willingly transferred most of his assets to me. After Molly was born, Mark placed everything under our child's name. While he loves me, he's prepared for anything. Even if Mark and I split one day, I won't lose much. Once Shirley finished, I stood up and tidied the wrinkles in my clothes. Shirley, do you think your affair was just coincidence? Billy's eyes turned crimson as he lost his composure and stepped toward me, nearly bumping into me. Regardless, it was me who guided you to meet these men, to get to know them. I always knew about that ambitious little director. I knew your marriage was unhappy, and with you two together, you really took down the family, giving me quite the surprise. Shirley slammed her hand on the glass, her eyes wide with fury, wanting to devour me. Uncle Cap gripped her tight. And I, taking my bag, walked away with a spring in my step. As for Billy, his financial maneuvering during the marriage and fiddling with company accounts landed him with fines and some jail time. When he got out, the Billy family was near bankruptcy. Now, he's just one of my employees. When he came to my parents' farm seeking Catherine, who was vacationing, he greeted me. Susan. I cut him off. Please call me Chairman. Catherine refused to see him. Shirley, venting frustration before she was caught, confessed an old incident to Catherine. Years ago, Catherine got pregnant at an older age and used the family fortune to pressure Billy into breaking it off with Shirley. Billy agreed, but secretly schemed, causing Catherine to miscarry. Being an older mother wasn't easy, and Catherine fell down the stairs, almost losing her life. After learning Billy orchestrated it all, Catherine lost all hope. Out of the sliver of maternal bond left, Catherine only left him a tenth of her estate. For the rest, Catherine said she wanted to travel and see the world while she was still mobile. From now on, no one will monitor Billy, and he should find that appealing, I suppose. Not long after, Billy left my company. The next news I heard of him was years later when the media reported on a violent loan shark debt collection. In the picture, Billy's clothes were tattered, and he clutched his arm in pain. I closed the news article. Catherine had already passed away. There was no need for her to be saddened by this son anymore.